to life.
Can you still take the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. So I guess I should have done a test before I started. I'm not sure. YouTube changed their studio setup, and I'm not sure if it's actually coming through or not. Let me know in the comments if you happen to see this stream or not. It looks like it's going through perfectly fine. I just can't really see on YouTube side that it's working. Maybe, maybe not. I don't have a clue. So I don't even know where to look. Let me see if I can look on my phone. All right. I got to go in there. All right. Well, I'll just keep my phone up here and see comments. Okay. Can you hear me? What's up, Matt? All good. All right. Well, great. Welcome to Racing in the Draft. I guess I should have put this at the start page. That would be better. Okay. Gosh, working out all the bugs here to start the season off. That's all good. I appreciate everyone tuning in. My name is Mark. Welcome to Racing in the Draft, where we go through all of the data, all the qualifying, practice if it's relevant. Practice for this week is not relevant. Even though they had lots of it. So, but I didn't even go into the practice because there are just too many strange variables when it comes to super speedways and drafting style tracks that after Daytona, they don't even do practice for Atlanta or Talladega or the second Daytona race. They just go out and qualify and run. This is more of just a chance for them to shake all the cobwebs off. And because it's the biggest race of the year, they allow the guys a lot of extra time. But we go through, we break down all the drivers, all the qualifying, practice if it's relevant, and I go through who I think could fare well, who could not fare well, different strategies on how to build lineups, what has worked in the past, what hasn't worked in the past, and all that good stuff. If you do like the information and want to stay up to date, we do this every Saturday night at about 9 o'clock. Depending, when I go to Martinsville, the schedule gets a little wonky, and I'll fill you in the week before Martinsville what that schedule is going to look like. And then, of course, if it's like the Southern 500, which is a Sunday night race, or the Bristol race, which is a Saturday night race, the schedule gets a little bit wonky. But for the most part, I would say 30 to 32 of the races, I go live on YouTube at about 9 p.m. Eastern. So I appreciate the few people we have already tuned in. And welcome back to, I think this is now my third full year of doing Racing in the Draft. And as much as I like giving the information out, it really kind of helps me go through the process in my own mind on who I want to take for the race and kind of break down and catch any little oddities that I may see or may not see. So, but as we always do, we go back in time. We're going to have to go way back in time to Phoenix, where my guy, Kyle Larson, ended up getting the championship, but Ryan Blaney getting his win at Phoenix. That's why everybody was really nervous about Ryan Blaney making it to the final round, because he is super dominant at Phoenix. We won't spend a whole lot of time on this because, number one, it was last year. Number two, it was like 4 months ago. But I always go back and break down kind of what the previous race was and what was good, what was bad, and those types of things. Denny Hamlin dominated that race and should have won the championship. It was his to be lost, and with a late caution, it ended up just losing it, finishing in 6th place. Ryan Blaney finishing in 1st. Michael McDowell in 8th. But as you can see, this is the optimal lineup, and I'll have this every week to kind of go through who I talked about, who I picked, why I picked them, and as you can see, I have a little down thumbs for the guys that I didn't foresee doing that well or just missed the boat on. So I always try to call myself out on the good and the bad and the ugly and all the different things in between. I like to be fully transparent on all of my lineups and all the builds. I also do an optimal lineup challenge, as you can see on the bottom right. That one was already been locked up before we went to the race at Phoenix, but Chase Elliott had 13 of 36 races. He finished in the optimal. Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, all with 11, and Ryan Preece with 10. But that's always kind of an interesting one to keep an eye on as we go throughout the year and the season. It gives you also a little bit of an idea of who to potentially put in your lineups if you're kind of sitting on the fence on somebody. It's kind of a trend line to kind of be aware of also. And then, of course, I list the other 8 drivers who were not in the optimal, but were very, very close. And some of them, a lot of times, like Chase Elliott, money-wise, did not fit the optimal lineup at 52.1 points, but had more points than Ryan Preece or Justin Haley. But because of the $50,000 salary cap, he didn't fit. So he didn't make the actual optimal lineup, but did have more points. So this is also a nice tool to kind of understand what the optimal looks like and how it kind of comes together. So, and other drivers who may have done well, like you could have easily swapped out, a different driver. Like I'm trying to see who would have still made the optimal. Like Kyle Busch with 45.45 points, you probably could have swapped him out because there was $1,800 left. You could have swapped him out with Ryan Preece. I mean, it was only 1.5 points of difference. Would have probably still put you in the money and having a really good day, and it may even actually gotten you a 1st place, because not always does somebody have the actual optimal lineup and win their tournament. So, all right, either way, that's kind of last year. Let's get into this year, where we are headed to Daytona. We've been here since Wednesday with qualifying, and then we had the qualifying races on Thursday. Truck races last night, the ARCA and Xfinity race today. I tell you what, the truck race was phenomenal. The Xfinity race was just as compelling, even though Austin Hill once again just showed how dominant he is at those super speedways. Gosh, he's so good at Daytona and Atlanta, and not quite as good at Talladega. For some reason, he has a little bit of struggles at Talladega, but expect Austin Hill to be very good next week at Atlanta. So, but man, he's just really, really good. Last year's winner here at Daytona was William Byron. He's a 2-time, 2-in-a-row champ here at Daytona. Can he make it 3? Possibly. He's got a lot of work to do. He's going to have to come from way back in the back. And we'll get into all the reasons why that's going to be something interesting and kind of good. All right. We are at Daytona. It is a super speedway. If you are new to NASCAR, this is a 2.5-mile track. It's one of the longest ovals. It's the second longest oval that they race on. Talladega is the longest, which is 2.66 miles, 31 degrees in the banking. This is what they call a super speedway, or a drafting style track, which means they're bumper to bumper, 2 wide, 3 wide, all the way around this place. And if you are not inside that draft pack, you are going to find yourself going laps down pretty quickly. Their race length is 200 laps, Dominator points of 140. Dominator points are going to be very, very tough to get to, and because of that, we're not really targeting any Dominators. One race in the last, I think, 10 at Daytona have had what you would call a Dominator, and he really wasn't even a Dominator, which is Ryan Blaney in the fall race of Daytona here. Prior to that, though, we haven't seen very much for the Dominators. Other tracks that are comparison, Talladega is definitely the next closest to Daytona. Atlanta is very similar. The difference between Atlanta and Daytona and Talladega is Atlanta is only 1.5 miles and they go 267 laps. So there are more laps, more points, more Dominator points. Also, even though it's still considered a drafting track, the age and wear of the pavement that was put down 3 or 4 years ago is starting to wear in that Atlanta sun and summer and the heating and cooling that it goes through. So we're starting to see a little bit more tire wear at Atlanta, which will start to create more of a separation between the drivers, even though it's still going to end up being a drafting style track. And we'll cover more of that next week when we go to Atlanta. But Atlanta, for right now, until we see something different, is still considered one of the drafting super speedway style tracks. Our optimal lineups, and this is kind of very important to kind of be aware of what the optimal lineups at Daytona were at the previous races, and this gives us an idea of what the last 4 races, so the 2 races from last year and the 2 races from 2024, and kind of who was good, where their starting spots came from, if Dominator points played a factor or a role, how many points we need to be targeting when it comes to Draftkings points and those types of things. And I always kind of give an idea of this. This becomes very important when we start to go through the driver by driver breakdown, because we also put it on a calculator that we can kind of look at starting position, finishing positions, if they lead laps, if they have fast laps, and give us a point total. And we can kind of give a variance on what somebody's ceiling or what somebody's floor might be when it comes to Draftkings and Draftkings points. I know this is a lot of detail for a lot of guys that have done this for quite a few years and are familiar with this video. A lot of what I'm saying you already know. But for somebody who is new here, or maybe doesn't completely understand how the Draftkings setup works when it comes to NASCAR, it is a very difficult thing to finish well at. You can ask Matt, who's a family man, in the chat, how difficult NASCAR is, even compared to football and basketball and baseball. I think NASCAR probably is one of the hardest Draftkings to probably nail down and do really, really well in. So kind of keep that in mind as you're kind of making these builds. This is a tough lineup to get just right, but hopefully we can kind of narrow the probabilities down and get within a pretty good range. And Daytona's and the super speedways are kind of my favorites. That's the tracks that I have done the best at in the past. So hopefully I can kind of help clear some fog and have some data points that we can look at. But either way, as you can see, we still really didn't even have a Dominator. This is one of the few times we did have somebody who started in the top 10 who finished in the optimal lineup, and Ryan Blaney in the fall Daytona race where he finished first, started first. He had 27 laps led and 9 fast laps. Now that's only 27 of 160 laps. This just happened to be everything kind of fell into place, and Ryan Blaney was able to make the optimal lineup. It is very, very uncommon for somebody to start inside the top 10 and make the optimal lineup. Just kind of keep that in mind when we go through all the discussions today. As you can see, last year's Daytona 500, where all the starting spots were, the lowest starting spot or highest starting spot, however you want to look at it, 16th for Ryan Blaney. Once again, there's a pattern here. There are guys that do very, very well at these super speedway tracks. Penske and Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano have a tendency to do very, very well at these tracks. But as you can see, the point totals are from 80 points to 52 points. In the fall race, it was 76 points to 54 points. And this becomes very important. Like I said, when we start the driver by driver breakdown, this will become more apparent why we kind of need to focus on what these point totals are and how you get to them. But once again, the Daytona 500 from last year, no Dominators. We had 5 place differential. Place differential is anybody who moves 10 spots of place differential. If you start 30th and get to at least 20th or better, if you start 20th and get to 10th or better, that would be 10 place differential spots, which is 10 points because it's 1 point per place difference that you gain on the track. So, and that's the easiest way at these super speedways to get points. Because as you can see, I mean, Ryan Blaney got 45 points for the win, but only had 9 fast laps and 27 laps led. So he only got an extra 10.8 points from what would be considered a potential dominator point system. Whereas Chris Buescher started 24th, finished 7th, and actually got more points and didn't lead any laps and didn't have any fast laps. It was strictly place differential that Chris Buescher was able to beat Ryan Blaney in points. So that's why that becomes very important to remember when you're building these lineups at Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta. Also on road courses, that kind of comes into play too, but we'll discuss road courses when we get to Circuits of the America in 3 weeks. I think it's 3 weeks. We head Dakota. Yeah, it's pretty quick. We go to 2 super speedways and then we follow up with a road course. So, and then we get into some of the more traditional style tracks. All right, but the optimal lineup for the Daytona 2024 races, the fall race, once again, nobody even starting better than 20th. And the Daytona 500 of 2024, one driver finishing or starting inside the top 20. Everybody else is 24th or worse. It is very, very normal and very, very custom that it's the drivers starting 20th or further back are typically the ones you want to target. We can see some that are starting within, that 11 to 20th range that still could come into play. But on average, as you can see, a lot of drivers come from the rear, and that's where all the points are. But 73 to 60, DraftKings points was the optimal lineup for the fall race in 24, and the Daytona 500 of 24 was 69 to 59. So only about a 10-point spread in here for those. Just kind of keep that in mind. And as we look further into this and dig down a little bit deeper, what I always look at is who scored the top 15 in DraftKings points and where their starting spots came from. And this is very important, especially with these super speedways, where you want to see where the points are coming from and the starting positions. And as we could see, 31st or worse on average for the last 4 races at Daytona, this 4.4 of the top 15 in DraftKings points came from 31st or worse. 21st through 30th, 4.6. And 11 through 20, 4.2. So, I mean, that right there is 13 drivers started 11th or worse for the top 15 in points. That's not even the optimal. That's the top 15 in points. And only really 2 drivers in the top 15 in points started 10th or better. I can't really see the names because my phone's really small. I think it says Daniel. Says, "What's up, brother? I'll be watching from behind. Glad you're here." Yep. Thank you for joining in. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Yeah, and if you're new, thank you for joining in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. All right. But yeah, so this kind of gives you a really good idea of where the starting positions are and kind of how to start building your lineups. And I also have highlighted here, it might be a little bit small depending on what size screen you're looking at or watching this on, but the top 15 in points were 34.8, 37.35, 43.8, or 40.65. Remember when we looked up here what these point totals were per driver, that was for the top 6 drivers, and this is for the top 15. So the kind of the bottom end of the top 15 drivers is about 40 points of DraftKings points. And the high end is going to be in that 70, 75 range. So, and that'll come important when we get to these driver breakdowns. It hopefully will start to make a little more sense. Oh no, it's Pope. What's up, buddy? I see Daniel Pope now. Okay. Yep, you're not new here. You've been here You were here for most of last year too, so thanks for joining back in. Remember correctly, you had a little young daughter that you kept putting to sleep right when you were starting to listen to me. So hopefully, if I remember that correctly, hopefully you and your daughter and family are doing great on this. Oh yeah, happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Um, yeah, so hopefully you got to spend some time with your loved one if you've got one, and if not, hopefully you went out and did something fun for yourself. Either way, let's talk about racing. So what I have over here is kind of my ranking system. It takes into account qualifying, previous races, the last 5 trend points, how many place differentials I think they potentially can get. It takes all of those things. And then, of course, if practice were a variable, it would take practice into consideration and other style tracks that are similar. All of those things I put into a large spreadsheet that end up giving me a ranking system. And once we get into the driver by driver breakdown, this will make a little bit more sense. But William Byron is my number 1 ranked driver. Chris Buescher, and William Byron is starting 39th. Chris Buescher starting 41st is number 2. Ross Chastain 37th, and Austin Cindric starting 36th is the 4th driver on my ranking system. And I expect those 4 drivers probably to be extremely chalky. Not that chalk is necessarily bad to play in NASCAR, because you kind of have to have a little bit of the chalk. But the real key to winning this, and just like even with NFL or anything else, if you ask anybody else who has spent a lot of time building lineups in other sports, what you're trying to do to win these tournament style races. Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, this is much more of a tournament build, not cash builds. You can easily take what is said here to build a cash bill. What you're doing with cash is you're trying to find much safer bets or lineups that will do very well. Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, that's always a little bit tough to do because there is the variable of the big one, and that's why it just makes it that much more difficult to build cash lineups for these super speedway style races. But if anybody ever wants or has a question about cash build lineups, I'll be more than happy to discuss it. I don't play a whole lot of them. I like to go for the big money and playing the big tournaments. So I don't play in the really big ones. D Davis Gaming, didn't know if you'd be back streaming this. Of course, I'll be back this season. I wouldn't miss it. Yeah, I mean, as long as my health is good and I've got internet in my computer, I plan on being here for, I don't know, for as long as God, my wife, and family will allow me to do it. And everyone seems to like it and doesn't have a problem. So I'm back for another year. I think this is, I think I said earlier, the 4th year of doing this stream. So I would love to build up the audience a little bit, even though I'm not doing this to have a big audience or have a big following. I mean, it'd be kind of cool, but I'm not. I would literally do this pretty much if I had, the 10, 15, whatever people who watch this on a weekly basis. I'd still do it just for that because I get a lot of information out of this. All right, so that's kind of what all of this is. Now that we've got all of the details of what we need to build, let's take a look at the driver breakdown and kind of see. Now, this is a little bit, the screen's still the same. It's spaced out incorrectly because I'm trying to get it much more automated. And I'm actually going to try to work on getting some AI to help me build this stuff. But either way, for right now, the spacing down here is not as nice and neat as it was last year. Even though it's still probably a little bit more cleaner and nicer than a lot of other streamers have. But either way, I did not put any practice data in because the practice data for these super speedways, if they actually end up having it, is so wonky that you can't really get any true data out of it. So I didn't even include it, didn't even put it in. We also had 3 different practice sessions, so I didn't even put it in. So, but either way, this page here is kind of the important page to kind of look at. It gives us the last 5 races if they race twice a year at a track. They race twice a year at Daytona, so we've got the last 2 races from last year, 2024, and the fall 2023. This information gets transferred down here. So William Byron's price, well, let's start there. William Byron in DraftKings is priced at $10,000. He qualified out of the dual race in 39th. And then this information here, the Daytona 5 races, transfers down here to 2 wins. So in the last 5 races, he has 2 wins. The first number here is top 5s. He has 2 top 5s, which are the 2 wins, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s. So that's what this section of numbers is here. The next spot here is the DraftKings average. He averages 37.8 DraftKings points on average per race. And if you kind of remember, the top 15 was at about 39 points, and to be in the optimal was about 60 points or higher. So just this is an average of these 5 races. Of course, he's not making the optimal every time, but it kind of gives us an idea of who does well, and especially when it comes to DraftKings averages. Then we have the average finish for William is 11.2, which is actually really, really good. I think there's only a couple of drivers that get close to that. I think there's only one driver that has an average finish of better than 10th. Pennyman says William Byron started 5th, finished 1st last year. Daytona 500. It's blocking it off. I don't know what it says. The little heart thing blocks it off. Either way, I'll see it in a few minutes. But yeah, there's some information about William Byron from last year. And in the last race, which would actually be the fall race here, which is a little bit shorter than the 500, it's actually 160 laps instead of 200 laps. William Byron finished 19th. And as we discussed earlier, he did finish first in the Daytona 500 last year. Then we have the full race history, which is this bottom line here. And it kind of follows the same pattern. It's 16 total starts here at Daytona. He has 3 total wins, 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s, 6 top 20s, a 21.6 average finish for those 16 total races. Then we've got our calculator page. So this here is, of course, number 1, his price and the driver. He's starting 39th. His average finish of 16.8. So this gets changed a little bit because as you see here, it was 21.6. This 16.8 is actually the last 5 races at that particular track. So Daytona, we already knew that one was a 21.6. Then the trend line is the last 5 similar style tracks, including the track that we're racing at. So it would be Talladega fall race, the Daytona fall race, the Atlanta second race, the Talladega spring race, and the Atlanta spring race are those 5 races. And we have the best and worst. His best finish was 4th. His worst finish was 37th. Same thing here, the best and worst of Daytona. Then we have his average laps led and fast laps for Daytona, and then the average laps led and average fast laps for the trend for super speedways. That all then comes down here to be compounded into our little calculator sheet, and we can move the calculator sheet up and down. Of course, starting 39th stays the same. His average finish, 16.8. I left that alone. Fast laps of 4, laps led of 4, gives us 52.8 points. Well, the optimal, we were looking for 60 points or more to be in the top 15 in points, which is still not a bad race for any driver. When you've got 41 drivers, if you can find 6 of the top 15, you're going to finish in the money. You may even finish first, but probably going to finish in the money if you can nail 6 of the top 15. So with this calculator, we can make some adjustments to it, and we'll do that. So, I mean, William Byron finished first at Daytona 500 last year. Guess what just happened? Austin Dillon just won his 4th Daytona race, 3rd in a row. So it is very possible that William Byron can go and win again this year. Well, what happens to the points if William Byron goes and wins? Well, it takes him to 85.8 points, even with only 4 fast laps and 4 laps led. Now, it is a pretty tall task to go from 39th to 1st, but not completely impossible, especially with pit stops, fuel strategies, and those types of things. At Daytona, Talladega, and Atlanta, it's much easier to do than most other tracks. So, I mean, even Ross Chastain at the Coca-Cola 600 last year, 400 laps, was able to get from last place to 1st place and won the Coke 600. So here at Daytona, it's very easy to do, especially for somebody who is as good at Daytona as William Byron. So, but if he gets to 1st, it's 85.8 points. He will absolutely demolish and be in the optimal lineup. But if we think he's just going to be in the possibility of a solid top 10, it's at least 65.8 points with 4 fast laps and 4 laps led. Well, what happens if he never makes it up to the lead and gets 0 laps led? What does that do? I mean, it only takes it down to 64.8. Still plenty of room in that optimal. William Byron will be extremely chalky. I will have him in at least half of my lineups. It's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't type drivers. And what I mean by that is if he will be owned 50%, probably closer to 60% in lineups. Plain and simple. It's just going to happen. So you want to kind of be even with the field with William Byron. It's not going to, if he does get a top 10 finish, he's going to be in the optimal. And if you didn't have him, you're probably not going to be too happy. Because he's going to be over 50% owned, and you're going to have probably him in some of your lineups, I would advise it. And he doesn't do well, you and over half of the field aren't going to do well either. That's why I don't ever run 100% of a particular driver. I'll run probably max of 60%, but I'll probably have about 50% of William Byron in my lineups. It's just, it's too big of a number and too good of a driver not to have him in probably 50% of your lineups. I could hear the arguments for more, I could hear the arguments for less, and I would agree with both sides of those arguments. That's why I'm going to kind of probably fall in the middle and probably be about 50%. And I run typically anywhere from 40 to 80 lineups. So that lets you kind of know where I'm probably going to fall with William Byron. I don't ever share full lineup constructions, just because I don't need you copying my lineups, and you don't want to copy my lineup because we'll just split the pot if we end up doing well. And if I do really bad, I don't want you to blame me for you doing bad. So that's why I don't share straight up lineups. I give you very good indications on where I put people on. Hey, I'm not running them at all. I'm running them 50%. I'll run a little bit, or I'll run a decent amount. So, and like I said, probably the max I would run somebody is probably 60%. Typically, it's no more than 50. I just like to have a little bit more diversity to my lineups. All right, Kyle Larson, next in line here at $9,800, starting in 8th. And after we kind of got that breakdown, I'll start to go through these a little bit faster, unless somebody's got a particular question about a particular driver. Then we'll spend a little bit more time. And sometimes I get on rants and raves about different things. This should be pretty straight up. We don't have a whole lot of controversies going into this race. I really didn't discuss much about the lawsuit, Denny Hamlin losing Biffle, and all those types of things. I don't really consider this to be a news type channel like Eric Estep's channel or anything like that. Even though I thought about making a separate channel for that, or doing offshoots for that. I just haven't done it yet. I also try to have a life outside of NASCAR. Not that I think Eric has a bad life or anything, but I just don't have the time or energy to put towards doing that as of yet. I mean, if I were getting paid what Eric's getting paid, I would quit all my day jobs and just do NASCAR video content. But until then, I'm just going to do these and kind of keep going from there. So I appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe button. I always forget to remind people to do that. And probably by the middle of this year, I'll probably forget to tell people to do that. Kyle Larson, 9,800. So I'm going to go much faster through these drivers unless somebody's got a question about a particular driver, its typical possible setup, and those types of things. We're just going to kind of cruise through these as quickly as we can. If not, we'll be here for 3 hours. Most of these videos are about 90 minutes. I used to have them down to an hour, but once I started putting this calculator in, it started increasing the time. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point we're at a little over 30 minutes. We're only on the second driver. But Kyle Larson starting in 8th. He does not have a win in the last 5 races or a win ever at Daytona. Does not have a top 5 ever at Daytona. Has 1 top 10 in the last 5 races, only 5 top 10s for the 23 total starts. He has an average finish of 17th in the last 5 races and a 21.8 average finish for his total 23 starts. He did finish 6th, which is pretty good for Kyle Larson in the fall race. He had struggled for a long time at these super speedways. He just happened to always be caught up in the middle of it. Oh yeah, and over here is the average running position. I don't really think it's all that important for the average running position for these super speedways, just because it's kind of a crapshoot. But this will become much more into play on the more standard style tracks or the road courses. Super speedways, not so much. All right. So what does that look like on the calculator? Once again, across the top here, we've got, their best finish, their worst finish for the 5 races at Daytona, and then the trend, best and worst, and the average laps led. As you can see, nobody ever leads a whole lot of laps or has a ton of fast laps. So this really does not come into play. That's why dominators are not important at these super speedways. Only if you're doing the O'Reilly Auto Parts series or / the old Xfinity series, and put Austin Hill in there. Austin Hill made the optimal. He started in first, finished in first, and led a ton of laps. So, but either way, so we've got Kyle Larson starting in 8th. If he gets his average finish of 14th, has the fast laps of 4, laps led of 3, that's only 25 points. That doesn't even put him in the top 15. So what would Kyle Larson need to do to get, I'm not sure. He'd have to, even in 3rd, he doesn't make optimal. Finishing in 1st, he doesn't get to the optimal, which is pretty much 60 points or higher. So honestly, I have no interest in starting Kyle Larson. Even if finishing 1st, he would have to lead 30 laps. 30 laps, have 4 fast laps, which is probably about what it would be. And he would just be getting to the optimal line of 61 points. Now, if let's say he leads 15, that puts him in the top 15. That's only if he finishes 1st. Let's say he leads 15 laps and finishes in 4th. Well, he's still in the 15. He's not in the optimal range anymore, though. So not awful, not great. And we're not worried about salary. If you are getting close to your salary cap, I can tell you right now that you're probably not doing something right. Because if we look at salaries from the previous 4 races, we had $3,700 left in the optimal for the fall race last year, $6,300 for the Daytona 500 last year, $12,500 left over for the fall Daytona race of 24, and $4,600 left over for the Daytona 2024 race. And that is also something to always remember. You don't really ever have to spend all of your money at these super speedways. Now, when you get to the more traditional style tracks, you're gonna use most of your money. Very rarely does the optimal lineup actually use all the money. I think it happens probably on average 3 times a year out of 36 races that you have an optimal lineup that uses up the entire salary cap. Typically, it's $400, $500, $600 that's left over. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing your lineups. You don't always want to use all your money. It's perfectly fine and perfectly safe to have money left over. especially at these super speedways. Ryan Blaney, $9,700, starting in 5th. He does have 1 win here in the last 5 races, 2 wins total at Daytona out of his 21 total starts. But in the last 5 races, even with his 1 win, he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 2 top 20s, a 20.6 average finish, and a 15.3 average running position, even though he did finish first in the fall race last year. And boy, look at that mustache. That is a 1970s style mustache if I've ever seen one. Good Lord. What is that picture? Ugh, that's almost scary looking, to be perfectly honest. All right, but Ryan Blaney is starting in the 5th position. Like I said before, Team Penske always comes and races extremely well at these super speedways. The Fords are always fast at these super speedways. They don't always finish so well, but they run really, really fast, and they will run really, really tight together in packs. They work really well together, all those things. So I don't mind having, I probably do mind having a Penske build this year, because they're both starting pretty far up, and I'm not starting anybody in the top 10. I just don't do it. It doesn't turn out well. If you want to do it, go right ahead. I'm not going to argue with you. I'll just smile and be like, okay. But starting in 5th, his average finish is 21st. I mean, he's down to 10.5 points. And he actually averages 4 fast laps and 10 laps led. It's 9.3. So if he starts in 5th, can he even get close to being in the optimal? And how many laps would he have to lead? Well, a first place finish would give him the 53.3 if he leads 10 laps. And that's what we saw in the fall race last year. So he would have to lead 38 to 40 laps, which is extremely difficult. Joey Logano's the only one that's gotten close to even having that many laps led at these super speedways. So it's so difficult to get into the optimal lineup, much less the top 15 if you were starting in the top 10 starting spots. So, the averages that he leads is 10, 4 fast laps. Even if he gets to first, it's 53.3 points. Really tough to be in the optimal lineup at that point. Yes, she's walking, made a steak dinner, and now catching up on you. Awesome. Glad she's, glad she's walking. It's always fun. But that's also when they start to get into more stuff and you have to keep a closer eye on them. So good job, Pope. Glad she's doing well. All right. The last 2 drivers, I'm probably not going to have too much of an interest in. William Byron, definitely. Denny Hamlin, I could see possibly starting some Denny Hamlin. He's starting 22nd. Daytona has not been his best friend, even though he does have 3 wins and 3 Daytona 500 wins. The track in the next gen era has not been super kind to our boy Denny Hamlin, with only 1 top 20 in the last 5 races here, a 26.4 average finish, 23.1 average running position. He finished 25th in the fall last year. He does have the 40 starts with 3 wins, 11 top 5s, 22 top 20s, and 18th place average finish. So much better over the long history of Daytona, not so much of the recent. And let's put him on the calculator. What does 22nd give us? So 22nd to 24th, being his average, is only 18.35. Well, we've got some room to move up here. So let's go give old Denny Hamlin here a 10th place finish with the 4 laps led and 3 fast laps. Gets him to 48.35. Solidly in that top 15 number, which is fine, but doesn't really get us into that real true mix. Probably going to need to be closer to 5th. 5th gets us real close with 4 laps led and 3 fast laps. 4th will get us there. 4th place or better, which Denny Hamlin's very capable of doing, or top 5. I mean, I think Denny Hamlin's a solid play. I don't mind it. I don't love it. It's not quite as of an easy pick as a William Byron or some other drivers, but I'm not going to completely fade off of Denny Hamlin either. I'll have him if I'm putting a percentage somewhere probably in that 20% range. So if I'm running, 80 lineups, I'll have him in probably 15 lineups. So don't mind the play. It does need to get to a top 10 to make the top 15, top 5 to kind of get close to that optimal. Just kind of keep that in mind. Joey Logano, who's where'd all his hair go? He shaved all his hair off. But I wonder if old Ryan Blaney will do the same. But boy, what a change in Joey Logano. He did win one of the dual races from Thursday, which gives him a third place starting spot. Good for Joey. But as we can see, Joey doesn't really finish these races all that well. He's got one top 5, one top 10, one top 20 in the last 5 races here at Daytona with a 26th place average finish. With a 10.2 average running position, which means he runs really well and then wrecks towards the end. Typically, he gets a little overzealous and pushes a little too hard or just ends up being in the middle of stuff. So just kind of keep that in mind. If we look at his average laps led, he has an average laps led of 31.6 over the last 5 races at Daytona and an average laps led at all super speedways for the last 5 at 44. Those two are the highest numbers that we see across the board. He has a tendency to run up front, stay up front, and towards the end, wreck or have an issue. But even with that being said, starting in third, finishing, let's say he wins. He would have to have, let's see, this way, 37 laps led. Would get him 57.6. Finish in first, lead his average 37 laps, and it still really doesn't put him squarely in the optimal. It puts him close. He would need to lead 50 laps. 50 laps would probably put him in the optimal. Well, that's 25% of this race. That does not typically happen. He has an average of 31.6. It's doable. But, I mean, okay, go lead 50 laps, have 3 fast laps, and then finish in 10th. Now you're at 40.85. You're almost outside the top 15 in points. That's what the problem with starting up front is. If you don't win, it's just so costly. And, I mean, honestly, that 10th place finish, top 10 at Daytona, it's not a bad day for a driver. Not in the world of Draftkings, though. That almost puts you outside the top 15 in DraftKings points. So just kind of keep that in mind. I won't be playing much or any of Joey Logano, even with the chance that he leads a bunch of laps. All right, Chase Elliott. He was the other winner from the other duel. Ran really, really well. Finished first. Gets to start in 4th. Does not have a win at Daytona in any Cup Series race. He does in the last 5. He's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 15.8 average finish, which actually is a pretty good average finish. He finished 10th here in the fall and a 20.4 average finish. I mean, half the time he's finishing in the top 20. Well, once again, we're going to run into the same problem. He's starting in 4th. So that could be a little troublesome. He averaged laps led of 3.4 at Daytona, 8.4 all super speedways. So if we look at that, it's 4 and 6 actually. So this number goes to 4, this number goes to 6. But guess what? We're starting in 4th. If he falls to his average of 16th, it's 18.3. If he goes and wins, it's 51.3. Okay, it's a solid top 15. That's not optimal though. It would, once again, it's going to take 30. Nope, 40 laps led. And that's still really not truly in the safe optimal range. It's possible to be the optimal at 59.8. It's not, I think you have got to be at least 60 or higher. And salary does not matter this time around. When we get to these other more traditional, the optimal changes with the dollar value because of how you build lineups. So once again, Chase Elliott, he's going to be on the outside of my lineups. All right, so Bubba Wallace, $9,100, starting in 27th. I think Draftkings has got him priced a little higher than he should be, even though salary is not going to be a big issue this weekend. I just would not have Bubba Wallace priced this high. In the last Daytona's also he's pretty good. 17.8 average finish. I mean, that's solid. He finished 37th in the fall. Not great. 14.1 over 17 total starts. Okay. He doesn't lead a ton of laps for $9,100. In fact, he has 7.6 average laps led with a 1.4 fast lap average. So, I mean, if we're starting, he's starting in 27th, so it's going to be fine. I'm just surprised that DraftKings had him that highly priced. It's going to end up probably working out. If he gets his average, just 17th, and 2 fast laps and 5 laps led, it's 38.15. It's almost top 15 just by getting to his average. If he can go get a top 10, it takes him to 53.1. Okay, that's solidly in the top 15. If we can get up to 5th, we're in the optimal range. 7th, we're real close to optimal. So a top 7 for Bubba Wallace. I mean, very doable. He typically runs Talladega better than he runs Daytona. I don't know which way you want to kind of look at that. But Bubba Wallace is easily capable of having a decent run here and getting a solid finish. I mean, I like it for the simple fact of, if he makes it up to 12th, he's solidly in that top 15. So I'm probably about the same spot with Bubba as I am with Denny Hamlin. I'm probably somewhere in that 20-25% range of my lineups. So I don't mind the price tag. I just was surprised that DraftKings actually priced him up that high. So, all right, next in line here, Austin Cindric, $9,000. Does have a Daytona 500 win 3 years ago. He won. I think it was 2022. It was his rookie season. He his first race coming out of the gate goes and wins the Daytona 500. Good for Austin Cindric. It may have been 2021. No, 2020. It was 2020 Michael McDowell won. 21 was maybe Austin Cindric. I can't remember exactly. But Austin Cindric, his first race as a rookie, goes out and wins the Daytona 500. Since then, hasn't won again. So, but 9 total starts, 1 win, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 5 out of 9 starts, he's finished in the top 20. He's pretty consistent here. Like I said, the Penske drivers are really, really good. Problem is, he's starting way back in 36th. His teammates are starting way up front. He's going to have a lot of work to do to get up to his teammates. Not that it's not possible. And all it takes is that one pit stop. And if he nails it, he can catch right back up to him. So, Austin Cindric, starting in 36, because of his average finishes of 18.4 or 24.8. A top time. What is that? Okay. All right, we've got a spammer. Looks like. All right. That person just got blocked. Don't come and spam the channel. I'll block you. I don't know. Hopefully that got rid of it. Because it was kind of getting borderline inappropriate. So, all right. Either way, that's why I like to watch the chat to make sure. Austin Cindric, like I said, 18.4 average finish, 9 total starts. Sorry, that kind of distracted me for a second. But starting 36, if we mix it up to 20, what are some of my favorite GPP contests I should play tomorrow? I mean, the problem with like the Chrome Horn is there's just so many people playing in it. Let me pull the Chrome Horn up real quick and we could take a look. Yeah. Yeah, so the Chrome Horn, $4 to get in. It's max 20. First place, yeah. If you can go nail first place, it's $20,000. That's great. There's 44,000 people playing. And you've got to nail first place and beat 44,000 other entries. That's real tough. If we look down, they're paying out the 9,260. So what is that? 20% that they're paying out? Is that right? 44, 5. 44,500. Yeah, 20% payout is 8,900 entries, and they're paying 9,260. So, oh my God, what is going on? All of a sudden, my channel get that popular. I have to. Either way, so that's the problem with that is you've got to be in the top 20% just to make your money back. And if you play if you play 20 lineups, it's $80. So you've got to have at least one that make it into the top 80. Realistically, I mean, I guess you could do 110th or better and get most of your money back, and you're going to probably feel okay. So that's the problem with that one that I've got. Now, if we go down to, I think my favorite one, and I've got to see if I can find it. It's the $2. Now, let's see, entry fee. It's a $2 entry fee. I can't remember what it's called. The donut. The donut actually is one of my favorites. So it's got a max entry of 20. And they have literally 10% of the people entering in. So 4,700. And they pay out to 1,233rd. So they pay 20, almost 20. Is it about the same percentage that they pay out? But you don't have to beat as many people. 4756 times 20 is 951. Actually, they pay out more than that. They pay almost 25%. 4756 divided by. Yeah, they pay almost 25% of this contest. That's why I like it just as much. And for $2 per entry, I'm going to have $40 in. Well, for me to get my $40 back, I got to be in the top 20 of 4,000. You might have to subscribe only to block the bots. Oh, great. Are they still showing up even though that I blocked them? Because I can't see them anymore. And because of the way the new YouTube looks, I can't. This is all I see on my end on the YouTube studio side. I don't know what's going on with it. I used to be able to see all the information and all the chat and everything, and now I'm having to watch it from my phone. So I don't know exactly what's going on. Good for now. Okay, well, let me know if it becomes an issue, and I'll definitely try to figure out the whole thing for next week. So To answer your question, Pope, on which I don't think Cindric's that sneaky. Cindric's going to be pretty solid. He's going to be pretty chalky. I'm probably going to have him in 40% of my lineups. So I don't think he's all that sneaky. Especially since he's Penske, he's going to be fast. He's got to win here. He's almost as chalky as William Byron, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, if you guys see spamming stuff going on, let me know. Because I think I'm actually on my personal account. I don't think I'm on my I think I'm on my regular account. So if you guys see a bunch of more spam, let me know. So all right, either way, let's get back to this. So yeah, and Austin Cindric, he's going to be super chalky. Because I mean, he's going to need to get to 10th. He's going to be just like William Byron. Yeah, I mean, 10th easily gets him there. If he's got 4 fast laps, 1 lap led, I mean, it's 62 points. He can finish top 12 and easily be there. If he finishes top 20, he's still within the top 15 in points. I mean, he's definitely a good tournament play. He's going to be chalky. I would definitely have him in a cash tournament, though. Yeah, I mean, it's a solid play. So sneaky, I don't think it's sneaky, but it's good. Kyle Busch, $8,800. I mean, good for Kyle Busch, and I think it'd be awesome to go watch Kyle Busch win. He's only got, believe it or not, Kyle Busch has only 1 win at Daytona, and it's not the Daytona 500. I think he's got some wins in some other series, but for the Cup Series, he's only got 1 win. It's not a Daytona 500. I think it would be really cool for him to get a Daytona 500 notched on his belt before he happens to retire, which could be sooner than later. Unsure, I don't know. But he's starting to get up there in age. So would love to see Kyle Busch get a Daytona 500. And this may be one of the last few tries. I mean, Jimmy Johnson's now announced next year is going to be his last and final hurrah. And then he retires. Potentially Denny Hamlin next year's Daytona 500 will be his last, possibly. Could be Kyle Busch's this year or next year. So, I mean, we could see a lot of the old guard exiting out, and Kyle Busch, I think it'd be cool for him to get a Daytona 500. Starting from the pole, it's got a good chance, but it's tough to win from the pole at Daytona. So, good starting spot, though. I will have no interest in him in Draftkings. Yeah, I mean, finishing first, he'd have to finish in first. He'd have to lead 30, nope, 40, 50. Yeah, he'd have to lead 50 laps, have 7 fast laps to get 60.65. Anything worse than that, it's negative place differential, and it's just not going to work. So, as much as I'll be rooting for Kyle Busch to potentially get a win, and I'll be more than happy to miss out on those points, because I guarantee that, I mean, an Austin Cindric with 12th place finish, 10th place finish, will beat a Kyle Busch. Oops, that's Brad. Where'd Kyle go? Sorry. Kyle Busch finishing first, leading 50 laps with 60.65. Austin Cindric coming from 36th to 10th gets 62.05. So, an Austin Cindric who finishes 10th beats Kyle Busch who finishes in first. That's kind of wonkadoodle. It's taken a long time to wrap my head around that whole process. And once you figure that out, doing DraftKings at super speedways makes a lot more sense. But yeah, I'll have no interest in Kyle Busch other than I think it'd be cool to watch him win. So I'm not a big Kyle Busch fan. I just think it'd be kind of cool for him to notch that into his belt before he goes off into the sunset and watches his kid race. Brad Keselowski, 8,600. I mean, what a miracle that he's actually back after the surgery that he had from his broken leg. Pretty impressive. But he's walking around with a cane. He'll be starting in the 9th position. He had a really good duel. And RFK looked really, really good on getting them all in there. Pope says, I'm not caught back up. That's okay. You'll catch up eventually. No problem. If you happen to, what I'm more worried about is if we start to see a lot more spam, I'm going to have to figure something out. Even though it does help my algorithm to get people to chat, but it's not the chat that I think I want in my channel. So it's a family-friendly channel, even though we're talking about gambling and debauchery and all that fun stuff, but we're not really. I mean, NASCAR is the hell yeah sport now, so we're all about it. Even though I do really, really like the new advertising campaign. Brad Keselowski, 8,600, starting in 9th. And just so close to being outside the top 10 for me to be interested. I just really don't have much interest in anybody starting in the top 10. And the problem is Brad is just so aggressive at these tracks. He's really good, but he's super aggressive. He's got a 14.7 average running position. Once again, that's really good. 17.4 average finish. He's really good at these super speedways. But starting in 9th, he's going to have to finish top 3 and lead. What happens if he leads 10 laps? 52.65 and solid top 15. So he's right on that cusp of, do I take it or not take it? And I just have had this hard line in the sand of I don't start anybody that's single digit. And 10th through 15th is really, really, I think, risky. You know, Brad would have to finish in 3rd. He'd have to lead, 30 laps, which is possible. It's doable, but even that still doesn't really put him safely in the optimal range. Finish 2nd. Nope. Finish 1st. Finishing 1st, he gets him there. But, literally finish 3rd, and he's outside. Finishing 5th, it's even worse. So it's just, that's why I just say that 10th is kind of my line in the sand, and it's real muddy up until about 15th. So I honestly, I might potentially have a Brad with a RFK stack. Have Brad, Busher, and Priest all in a lineup, just hoping that Brad's able to lead a bunch of laps and win the race. So I'm not going to say Brad's an absolute fade, but the only way I'm going to run him is if I'm running him in an all RFK lineup, along with some other drivers. Alex Bowman starting in 21st, has a 13.2 average finish, which is, pretty solid. He finished, and that's with the 36th this past fall. 16.1 overall. He actually runs Daytona really, really well. He started front row last year, and that didn't turn out well. And he finished 36th in the fall. That didn't turn out well. So starting in 21st, average finish 17th. If he has 5 fast laps, 4 laps led, it's 33.25 points. That's not going to be enough. But what happens if we get to a top 10? 9th will get him to 50. Top 5, get him to 58. Top 3 puts him there. 4th or better gets him there. So, can Alex Bowman get to a top 5? Yeah, absolutely. He's got some really, really strong teammates. And most of them are starting up in the top 10. So, if he can somehow pull William Byron up with him and go get with Kyle Larson and Chase Elliott, it is not completely impossible for the Hendrick guys to all stink up the show tomorrow. And don't forget, we're starting an hour early, 1:30 tomorrow. They changed the time because of the weather. Chris Buescher, starting shotgun on the field, or last. 41st. Wow. That's a lot of place differential points. And he's got a win here at Daytona. A 9.2 average finish. 9.2. That's single digit average finish. It's really, really good. Probably one of the best in the field, to be perfectly honest. At Daytona, his best is a first, worst is 18th. On all five, the last five at Super Speedway, 7th to 36. Daytona is definitely his track. It's starting 41st. If he gets to his average of 16th, it's 53.6 without really leading any laps. Get to 10th, and he crushes the optimal. So, I mean, between him, William Byron, and Cindric, right there's half of your optimal lineup. The problem is, you're almost crazy not to have that in your lineup. It's going to be super, super heavy chalky. But damned if you do, damned if you don't type of scenario. I think, honestly, what I would say 80 to 85% of my lineups will have at least a Busher, Cindric, or Byron in their lineup. If not all of them, will have at least one of those three drivers. Just it's you're almost crazy not to have one of those three. And we're still not even we're not even halfway through with drivers yet. And we've already got three really good possibilities. You know, if we're looking for cash lineups, there's three for a cash lineup right there. $8,200 for Christopher Bell, starting in 12th, an average finish of 13.2. Does not have a win at Daytona out of 12 total starts, but has in the last 5 races, 2 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s, 14.2 average earning position. Starting in 12th, we are just on that outside looking in. You know, I'll put it on the calculator. It's just going to have to be at least a top 3 and bleed 20 laps. That still doesn't even put you really in the optimal. It's a good day, but just it's so hard to get there from 15th or better, or starting 15th or worse. So I might have Christopher Bell if I'm running a Joe Gibbs type of lineup, because what you're doing is you're pairing up teammates because they're going to work together. So I might have a Christopher Bell and a Joe Gibbs Racing Alliance or Toyota Alliance type of lineup, and those very rarely ever work out. So don't lean on that too much. It very rarely works out to where teammate alliance works well in DraftKings, but that might be one of the few ways I would have a Christopher Bell. I'm probably way less than 10%. I'm probably closer to 5% on Christopher Bell ownership. And here's our fourth contender for optimal lineup. $8,100 starting in 37th, Ross Chastain. Now, Ross is not quite as solidly good at Daytona as the previous 3, but he does have 3 top 20s in the last 5 races, a 21.0 average finish. He did finish 15th in this race in the fall. So, average finish of 21st, starting in 37th, 20 points get you 44.85. Solidly in the top 15 in points. Not quite enough for optimal. But, I mean, once again, we see what this place differential does. He gets to 10th. He's well inside there, especially if his 8 fast laps and 5 laps led. Probably won't have. Might get into lap lead. But even if we back this down to 4, finishing 10th at 63 points, he's solidly in the optimal. Finishing 13th, he's solidly in the top 15. 11th gets you, so 11th place or better. And Ross is now in the optimal also. So literally there's 4 drivers right out of the gate. We haven't even gotten past $8,000. We haven't even gotten to value yet. And we've got 4 drivers that easily are cash plays viable or should be tournament viable. So there's that. Ryan Preece, $8,000. Led a ton of laps in the first duel, and just because of a bad pit stop, ended up falling towards the back. But starting in 19th, that's your other RFK driver. And honestly, I was talking to Family Guy earlier this week about Ryan Preece. I think Ryan Preece has, in my opinion, I think he, out of all the RFK drivers, will have the highest points. I think he'll finish the highest in all of the. At the end of the year, he'll be the highest ranked RFK driver at the end of the year. I think he makes the playoffs. I think he wins a race or two, and I think he finishes in the top 10. Just my personal opinion. He's just poised to have a really, really good year this year. And he's not bad at these super speedways. Average finish of 20th, starting in 19th. Well, that's not going to be enough to get you close, but get to a top 10, I don't think quite does it. Puts you solidly in the top 15. Top 5, doesn't quite do it. Top 3, gets you close. So, if he can be one of the top 3 along with RFK, so I don't mind running some Ryan Preece. I'll probably be kind of in that 10 to 15% range with some Ryan Preece. I'll probably run him a decent amount with Chris Buescher, just because I expect the two of them to probably team up at some point together and make a run towards the front. So, and I don't mind putting him with Brad, but Brad's starting too far up for me to put him with Draftkings. Chase Briscoe, outside pole sitter, starting in second. We don't really have to go down this path. We've already beaten it to death. It's just, he'd have to do way too much, and it's just not going to happen. So I'm just not interested. I think he ends up having a good, solid year. He finished last year on a really good, solid run. Super impressed with him in the 19. I think they do a lot of great things this year, and they might do it at Daytona. I just don't think they're going to lead enough laps to get there. They're not. He's not Joey Logano. And if it goes to bite me in the backside, it bites me in the backside. I'm just not taking that chance. Carson Hocevar, good solid win or second place finish in his dual race, helping push Chase Elliott to the win, and just realizing what his part was for that race and having a good solid starting position. The problem is it makes it real easy. I don't have to worry about taking Carson Hocevar for this race. He might win it. He might not win it. He might wreck the field. Who knows? I'm not going to have him in my lineup so because he's starting in the top 10. I don't have to put him on the calculator. There's a very good chance. I think Carson Hocevar still gets a win before Ty Gibbs. I'm still sticking to that. I said it last year. Neither one have won yet. But I think Carson Hocevar gets a win before Ty Gibbs. If he wins tomorrow, good for him. I think the chances of him wrecking the field before winning the race are probably pretty great. And I like Carson as a driver. He's just very aggressive. Tyler Reddick starting in 26. Oh, we have another contender for, do I put him in my lineup? Yeah, why not? Starting in 26. Plenty of room to run. He's got a 21st place average finish. Only one race that he's finished in the top 5, 10, and 20. The other 4 were bad. 13 total starts. Only 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. Not good. 23.4 average finish. This is not a great track for Tyler Reddick, to be perfectly honest. Even though we put the averages between all the super speedways together, and it's a 17th. It's only 36.5. It's not really in the top 15. He's going to need to finish top 7. And honestly, nope. Top 5 to get to the optimal. I just don't see Tyler Reddick getting there. I'll run some lineups with him. I just don't know if the bug is still there from what he had last year. He just was on the struggle bus all last year. And at this point, haven't seen anything that's changed. So until I start to see really solid practices and really solid race results, I'm going to be leery about the Tyler Reddick play. He's starting far enough back for me to run him in some lineups, but I'm going to be a little leery of running in those lineups. So, Connor Zilic, $7,400, starting in 32nd. We don't know because we don't know. But he was really good in Xfinity last year. He actually won the fall Daytona Xfinity race. He showed he had speed. In the duels, he's a smart kid. Starting in 30 seconds, he's got a ton of room to run. In fact, he does have an 11th place finish. I think it was at Talladega in the fall. Was it that or Atlanta? I can't remember which one it was. But one of the super speedways last year wasn't Daytona, Talladega or Atlanta. He finished 11th. It's pretty solid for somebody who doesn't have a full-time ride or didn't have a full-time ride last year, but does now. Starting in 32nd, though, if he gets to his 11th place finish, it's 55.1 points. I mean, he's definitely a contender to be in at least probably 25 to 30% of my lineups. So that, and I think he's quickly going to probably become one of my top 5 favorite drivers. So I really like the kid. He's got a super great head on his shoulders. I think he could potentially go a really, really long way. And I was super excited to hear that my boy Kyle Larson and his crew chief both signed long-term contracts with Hendrick. So definitely not going anywhere, and I can buy more merchandise. Eric Jones, $7,300, starting in 24th, has an average finish of 12th. Remember, that's a really good average finish. And in the last 5 races here at Daytona, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, and all 5 top 20s. One of the few drivers to have all the last 5 races at Daytona finish in the top 20. So really good, solid finishes. If he starts in 24th, finishes in 16th, it's not enough to be in the top 15, but go get yourself top 8, and we're getting close. We're at 54.3. Top 5 gets you there. So I don't mind running some Eric Jones. I'll take Eric Jones before I take Tyler Reddick. But I'll take more Connor Zilic than I will of Eric Jones. Probably kind of in that 20% range for Eric Jones. I definitely do not mind it. He's got plenty of teammates in the field and racing with the Toyotas. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $7,200, starting in 16th. Average finish of 30.2. It's either checkers or wreckers for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Just buyer beware. It's either checkers or wreckers. Starting in 16th, I just don't love the play at 16th. If it were 26th or 36th, I'd have some interest in Ricky. Starting in 16th, he's just too risky to be a really big play, in my opinion. So, after that, 16th, average finish at 25th, it's 10. He'd have to get top 3 to be, it gets him to 56.25. Finishes in first, it gets him to 62, just barely in the optimal range. So if he does it, he beats me. It happens. Ty Gibbs starting in 20th, average finish of 16.2. 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 4 top 20s. Real close to that Eric Jones number of 5. And 16.2. I don't mind playing a little bit of Ty Gibbs. I'd run him with some other Joe Gibbs or Toyota drivers. I'm not super. It's not something I really have to run a whole lot of. We have so much chalk in the back that a Ty Gibbs is a nice alternative with that chalk, and he probably doesn't have a whole lot of ownership. He'll probably be in the 10% range, where the other 4 drivers we talked about or 5 drivers we talked about are all going to be 40% owned. So Ty Gibbs got some room to run. He runs super speedways fairly well. He's getting smarter as he's getting older, so I don't mind running some Ty Gibbs at 20th. It's definitely not a favorite play. I'll run him, 10, 15%. Same thing with Josh Berry, $7,000. He's running with the Penske's. Got Penske Ford power. Has a potential to be in the top 5. But starting in 14th, his average finishes are 23.8. He's not super great at these super speedways. He's not awful. But, if he runs with the Penske's and can get himself a top 5, that gets him to 51.4. He'd have to finish first to get to optimal range. So that's the problem I have. It's so difficult to be in first when it's just not something that he normally does. So starting in 14th, I don't really love it. I might would run him in an all Penske lineup, but that would probably be about it. Daniel Suarez, 6,700 in the new ride with Spire Motorsports, starting in 15th. Spire showed really, really good speed during the duels. Daniel's a really good super speedway racer, but he's kind of starting in that no man's land in 15th. It's to do well, he's going to need to finish top 3. And anything other than that really doesn't really do much. Yeah, I mean, you have to go finish top 5, I think. Gets him to 50.85 points. He needs to finish top 3, 54, second, first. First just gets him over the line. I don't know if Daniel Suarez finishes first. I mean, he's a good super speedway racer. It would be kind of a storybook ending, not ending, but a storybook beginning to the season for him in the new number 7 ride after getting booted out of his 99 ride last year. So I mean, I could, if that's what happens and it burns me. I'll have him with a Chevy lineup or a Spire lineup, but with him and Michael McDowell, they could potentially team up together and run pretty well. I don't mind keeping that scenario open, but I'm probably like 5% ownership on Daniel. Michael McDowell starting in 10th. I mean, same type of thing. I mean, even if he goes and wins another Daytona 500, which is always possible, he's always run super speedways really well. But it's 57.75 points. It really doesn't put you in the optimal even. He'd have to lead 20 laps, which is just really hard to do at these super speedways. Get you to 61 points. So, I mean, I might run him and Daniel in a lineup, with maybe some of the, with a William Byron type lineup. But it's too risky starting somebody top 10. Justin Allgaier. I mean, okay. Guy finished second in the race today and the Xfinity race, or Rally R Parts race. $6,400 starting in 40th. And he finished 9th in this race last year. He's got 5 total starts at Daytona with a 23.2, but in the next gen era with Junior Motorsports / Hendrick horsepower, starting in 40th. I think he just bides his time all day. I think he ends up somewhere like 10th to 15th. I mean, if he goes against 9th, he's way into the optimal range. I mean, this will be another driver that's just going to be chalky. And I'm going to have a piece of that pie. Yeah, I mean, if he gets to 12th, he probably won't lead a lap, but 59.9 points. Give him 3 fast laps, and he's into that 60-point range. He's solidly in the optimal at that point. He's too smart of a driver. He knows when to take risks, especially in this next-gen car. He knows to bide his time. He knows to wait it out. He's going to have a solid day. It could be 20th, and if he finishes in 20th, it's a 44.35 day. If you nail the other 5 and of optimal and have Justin Allgaier as your 6th, you're going to have a really good day. Easy to say. You will finish in the top 10% of the money. Austin Dillon starting in 7th. I mean, super great Daytona driver, has 2 wins under his belt here. Almost won a duel. It's starting too far up. He and his teammate Kyle Busch could have great days. They could tag team together. Oh, Lost Prophet, what's up, buddy? Um, yeah, good to be back. Good to be back in the saddle. I'm working on some new things, some different looks to the spreadsheets and everything. I think I've found a couple things for this season to kind of work on. But glad you made it, and yeah, I'll be here every Saturday except for the nights they race on Saturdays or the nights they get, or I'm at Martinsville. So, but yeah, I should be here every Saturday night. Good to see you back again, and good to have you. Austin Dillon starting in seventh, just starting too far up. AJ Allmendinger starting in 35th, has an average finish of 20.3. He's actually pretty decent at these. It's either he's kind of like Ricky Stenhouse Jr., checkers or wreckers. Now the problem is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. starting in the top 17, 16, 15, something like that. We just saw AJ starting in 35th. I have no problem taking some shots on it. He's got a 20.3 average finish. If he finishes 22nd, he's 36.9. Not good enough for optimal lineup or even top 15. Better that up to 15th. We're at 51.9. We're solidly in the top 15. We're getting close to optimal. Get the 12th, we're real close. 10th, he's there. Top 10 for AJ Allmendinger, and he's in the optimal lineup. All of a sudden, we have now 5 drivers that easily could be in the optimal lineup that we just talked about. The problem is they're very chalky. All of the 5 drivers, 6 drivers that we've talked about. Yeah, I mean there's a lot of chalk on the board. John Hunter Nemechek, I think John Hunter is very. I think you could put him in the same argument of who gets a win first. Is it John Hunter Nemechek? Is it Carson Hocevar or Ty Gibbs? And I think John Hunter is definitely in that discussion this year. Just he's looking like a solid, mature driver at this point. But starting 11th this week, I don't have any interest. If he goes and wins, good for him. I'll celebrate it and say, good job, John. But I'm not putting him in my lineup starting 11th. Todd Gillen starting in 18th. Kind of in that no man's land, to be perfectly honest. Has an average finish of 25.6, only one top 20 out of 8 total starts here at Daytona. It's too risky, in my opinion, when he's got an average finish of 20th. Even if he goes and gets a 5th place finish, which would be a phenomenal day for him, it's 54.8. I mean, if you've got him in your lineups with the other 5 and that are in the optimal, it's going to be a solid day. But, I'll run Todd Gillen 5%, maybe 7 or 8%. That's probably going to be the max. Jimmy Johnson, who had a runner-up finish at the Daytona 500 last year, is starting 31st. And I think he's going to do exactly what he did last year. He's going to bide his time for the first 3 quarters of this race. And then he's going to go, okay, let's go either get a win or let's wreck this thing. And he almost got a win last year. So I expect Jimmy Johnson to do the exact same thing unless he gets tied up in somebody else's mess, which is always possible. But starting in 31st, he's got a 15.5 average finish for 2 races, an 18.7. He's won Daytona 3 times, 40 total starts. He's got a good head on his shoulders. Legacy Motor Club is putting together really good, solid rides at this point. Now, if he goes and finishes 16th, he's solidly in the top 15. If he goes and gets a 5th place finish, 60.6, 6, go to 10th, and he's outside. That's an 8th place or better. Puts him solidly in the optimal range. I'm willing to easily take some shots on Jimmy Johnson. I think, he'll get some ownership. He's not going to be the William Byron type ownership. So it'll be, he'll be 15 to 20% owned. So there's probably a little bit of room to gain some traction on Jimmy Johnson. I don't know if I'll go much more than probably 20% though. SVG, I tell you what, somebody who has put a lot of work and effort into figuring out how to run ovals. He was really impressive at the Clash at Bowman Gray. He ran the dual race really, really well. And towards the end of last year, I started to see moments of real maturity and learning ability from SVG on the ovals. I expect to see some pretty decent things out of SVG on the ovals. I think he actually makes the chase even without the win in your end program. So, but starting in 13th for tomorrow, I don't have any interest. Even if he goes and gets third, 53.3, goes and wins, it's still 59.3. He'd have to lead a ton of laps, and SVG is not going to go and lead a ton of laps tomorrow. Even if he goes and wins, it's still just on the outside of being solidly optimal. It's a potential that he's optimal, but I'm not going to take that chance in 13th. Zane Smith starting in 30th. Right there with. He's starting far enough back. I'm willing to take some shots on Zane. I think he's kind of like Jimmy Johnson. And I don't think he gets a ton of ownership. I think there's a chance to get up on the field a little bit. And I think you can differentiate a little bit with Zane Smith. He's going to still have ownership, but I think you can easily take, so when I'm building those lineups with, Chris Buescher and William Byron and, the guys that are starting 38th, 39th, 40, 41st, easily swap one of them out with a Zane Smith. It differentiates your lineup enough, and Zane could easily end up finishing with a top 10. And if he gets to a top 10, probably gets him real close. It's 55.15. You get to 8th, and you're right there, especially if you have, 4 fast laps? Yeah, 4 fast laps, 1 lap lead, which may or may not happen. I just give everybody the 1 lap lead. Andrew says, I want are slow enough to stay in the back. I want the guys in the back. A little heart button. I want the guys in the back who are slow enough to stay in the back. They will and they won't. William Byron will not. I think drivers like Jimmy Johnson will hang out back there. I think William Byron and Chris Buescher are going to come to the field. That's just who they are. They're going to want to get up front. They're going to want to be there. I think you're Jimmy Johnson. I think you're Connor Zilich. I think you're Justin Allgaier. They're the 3 that I think are safely going to stay in the back, and I think they'll end up getting joined up with a BJ McLeod, a Casey Mears. You're going to have a set of 8 or 9 drivers that are going to be like, you know what? We're going to settle in the back here. We're going to run our race and let them go do whatever they're going to do. Front is where all the trouble is. Well, yes. But trouble has been all over the place before at all these different super speedways. So you're not fully safe in the back. I think there's a little more control back there than there is anywhere else, but it's not completely safe. But I think Zane's a great play to be different, but be kind of safe. It's different enough that it'll differentiate yourself a little bit, but it's safe enough that I feel comfortable doing it. Cole Custer starting in 23rd is a 12.5 average finish. And I think it's only he probably does have 5 starts now, at least 4. So 12.5 average finish. 8 total starts with a 19.6 starting in 23rd. I don't have a problem taking some shots with Cole Custer. Even with his average finish of 14th, that gets him into the top 15. If he goes and finishes 5th, 58.85. That's almost close to being a solid optimal play. So I don't mind taking some shots with Cole Custer. I think now he's a little bit more going to push it and try to get up front. So he probably runs some risks of being kind of in trouble. But I still don't mind playing him. I don't mind playing Noah Gregson. Noah Gregson's kind of right there with Cole Custer. If trouble's going to find somebody, it's going to find Noah Gregson. At least that's the way the trend has been for the last year and two years. But one of these times, Noah's going to have a breakthrough. Yeah, I've kind of put Noah right there. I'd put him fourth on the list of who gets their first win in the Cup Series. I think it's Carson, Gibbs, and probably John Hunter right there with Gibbs, and then a Noah. So definitely, he probably might get a win this year. He just needs to have better luck. Racecraft is fine. His fan base is huge. It'd be a huge celebration if he wins. Oh my God, he probably would throw up on the start finish line like he used to do. But starting in 25th, I don't mind taking some shots on Noah Gregson starting in 25th. His history's not great. What's his average finish? 28th, starting 25th. I mean, that's a negative PD right there. But I don't mind taking a couple shots and being a little bit different with Noah. He won't be super heavily owned. Corey Heim starting in 29th. I could easily see Corey Heim, Zillage, Allgaier, Jimmy Johnson, all kind of hanging in the back, kind of going, you know what? We're going to be spoilers on this field in the last 30 laps of this race. Let's just hang out in the back. Let's get our stuff done. But I could also see Corey Heim being aggressive enough and wanting to be up front. But I think, I think it's a perfectly fine play. It differentiates. Plenty of place differential here with Corey Heim starting in 29th. I don't mind it at all. If he goes and gets a good solid day for him would be 12th, and that's solidly in the top 15. And it differentiates enough that it potentially could win. It might make you finish. You'd win some money in a tournament. You're probably not going to win the optimal. But good solid. I think it's a good solid play. I don't mind Corey Heim. I'll have him in 15% of my lineups. Ty Dillon starting in 34th. He's got a 15.7 average finish in the last 5 races at Daytona, 19.4. He's got 9 top 20s out of 16 total starts. Starting in 34th, I mean, go and get your average finish of 18th, and it's at 44 points before you even get a little bit lucky and get up to 15th. If you get up at 10th, he's in the optimal. So top 10 finish for Ty Dillon. I don't mind taking some shots on Ty. It becomes different. He's starting far enough back. He has been one who has typically hung out in the back and waited for the race to come to him, along with like a Cody Ware and a BJ McLeod and a Casey Mears. All those guys will just hang out in the back. They'll let 20 people wreck, and they'll get themselves a top 20. The problem is somebody like a Casey Mears is going to start too far up. Riley Herbst starting in 28th. Until I see something that makes me, I trust a Corey Heim more than I trust a Riley Herbst at this point. And they're going to be teammates. But Riley's got the same luck as Noah Gregson. I think Noah's a better race car driver than Riley Herbst. But damn if the two of them just are so unlucky. But starting in 28th, it's going to have to be a top 12 to make it worth it. 47 points. No, it's going to be top 8. Yeah, he's going to need to finish 6th. 6th or better. That's a tall task for Riley Herbst to ask, at least for what he's been doing. So I think it's a little. I'll run some Riley Herbst, but I would run. In my opinion, I run a Ty Dillon or Corey Heim before I run a Riley Herbst. And I don't mind the BJ McLeod play starting in 38th. You want to talk about it's got a horseshoe somewhere right now, because he should not have made the race, and he got lucky because Anthony Alfredo's car didn't pass inspection. But he's a smart driver. He's got a 26.8 average finish. and doesn't typically have good equipment. I mean, starting in 38th, go get yourself an 18th place finish and you're solidly in the top 15, and he's going to be sub 5% owned. If you want to differentiate with BJ McLeod. It's a pretty solid differential period, differential place differential compared to everyone else. So yeah, I don't mind running some BJ McLeod because he's going to be with Casey Mears, he's going to be with Jimmy Johnson, he's going to be with the guys in the back. And they're just going to buy their time. One big wreck happens and we lose 15 drivers. Now we're down to what? 26th? And if you finish 5 spots ahead in front of them, you're finishing 19th, you're at 44 points. Yeah, is it optimal? No. But for $4,800 for BJ McLeod and you've differentiated yourself enough, I don't mind that at all. Cody Ware, same thing. He's going to hang out with, he and BJ and those guys have run in the back of these things forever. And look at Cody Ware's average finish. 16.3, 9 total starts, 19.4. The reason they get these good average finishes, those are decent average finishes. You've got, what was it? Bubba Wallace at $9,100 has an average finish of 17.8. Austin Cindric has a 24 It has a win at Daytona. And you go down here to BJ and Cody Ware. And Cody Ware 16.3. BJ 27, but 23 total. Cody Ware 19.4 or 16.3. That's in the same realm as a $9,100 Bubba Wallace. So yeah, take a Cody Ware, take a BJ McLeod. They're going to be sub 10%, probably 5% owned, where literally a William Byron is going to be 50% owned. He'll be fine. Now, if there's not a big one, they won't be fine. If there is a big one, they're going to be typically they're going to be okay. But yeah, start Cody Ware 33rd. Go and finish 14th. It's 48 points. He'll have some fast laps. He'll have at least probably 4 fast laps. That's really where the fast laps come from, are the guys all the way in the back. They get all the momentum. So a 12th place finish, 53.8, but $4,700. You save a ton of money. And like I said, money's not going to be an issue this week, and it shouldn't be an issue. Casey Mears, good solid finish for him, 17th, but starting way too far up with an average finish of 29th. Even for his total career, 21.1, I don't have any interest in Casey Mears, even his price tag. All right, either way, we're getting close to wrapping this thing up. If you got any last minute questions, thoughts, or concerns, hit me up in the chat real quick. If not, William Byron, Chris Buescher, Ross Chastain, Austin Cindric, ultra chalky. Bubba Wallace, Justin Allgaier, AJ Allmendinger, Eric Jones, Connor Zilich, Jimmy Johnson, Cody Ware will all be pretty chalky. Cody Ware may not be that chalky. I don't like the Tyler Reddick play, to be perfectly honest, but he's got some good place differential potential. BJ McLeod, Zane Smith. I think Zane Smith is a really, really good play. Other than that, I am staying away from the guys in the top 10. You do you, though. I'll be more than happy to take your money. Guys that we don't really know a whole lot about, Corey Heim, Connor Zilich, I'll play them. They've got enough place differential, and all it takes is a little bit of luck. And there's a whole lot of luck that goes into doing well with Daytona. So, I'm going to scroll to the beginning, but who will be your highest owned driver? My highest owned driver will be William Byron. Me personally, well, it'll still probably be William Byron. but I think he'll be in tournaments. I think he'll be at 55 to 60% owned. I think Chris Buescher will be right there with him. And then, of course, Ross and Austin will probably be in that 40 to 45% range. So, yeah, those are the guys that I think are probably going to be the highest owned drivers. And I'll probably be close to matching the percentage ownership on those. I don't, if William Byron goes to 60, I won't be at 60% William Byron. I will probably be at max 50% on any one driver. But for those 4 drivers, I would probably guarantee that 95 to 100% of my lineups will have at least one of or 2 of those 4 drivers. So that kind of gives you an indication. If all of a sudden we have a much worse scenario that happened in the Xfinity race, happened in the Cup race, lap 1, and somebody in 30th blows a tire and takes out 30th or 40th, I'm screwed along with probably most everybody, because it's the cat is out of the bag at this point on how to build these lineups, and that's why you kind of have to find these differentials. Cody Ware, a Jimmy Johnson, Connor Zillich. I think AJ will have some ownership. He won't be as high as these other guys. A BJ, a Cody Ware, a Zane Smith will differentiate you a little bit, but be kind of a safe play. Corey Heim starting in 29th. He might get overlooked a little bit. Yeah. So, but they also keep you fairly safe. If and when the big ones happen, even if the big ones don't happen, even if trying to think, even if Chase Briscoe goes out and leads half of this race and finishes in first, yes, he's going to be optimal lineup. He's going to finish, in the optimal, but he's going to be sub 5% owned. Okay, I'm willing to take that chance because the history and data doesn't show that should work. Does it happen? Yeah, it does. But I'm not gonna go out there and take that chance. Now, I took that chance on Austin Hill today. Austin Hill had won 3 times at Daytona, twice at Atlanta, and he did it from the front row every time. And typically, he did what he did today. He led a ton of laps. So data had told me that Austin Hill does do that. So I played a fair amount of Austin Hill. I didn't play as much as I probably should have, but I still played. I probably paid 25% Austin Hill. And I don't start guys that are starting in the top 10. I started 20% of him and probably 15% of Jesse Love. Because the data and the stats told me that that's okay to do. The data and the stats tell me don't do that for Cup. Now, the data and the stats may begin to change over time. Like we saw the fall of this past year, Ryan Blaney started in first, finished in first, made the optimal lineup. Well, that's the first time in the last 10 races at Daytona that that's happened. Now, that's only a 10% chance. I'm not willing to start changing my lineups because of a 10% shot. Not going to happen. Now, we get to the 30, 40% probabilities. I'm going to start running my lineups different. Until that happens, though, I'm going to stay with what I know works. If I get burned by it, I get burned by it. So that's what I'm doing. You do you. We'll see what happens. And we'll see you next Saturday. We'll break down Daytona and we'll look forward to Atlanta. I have a feeling Atlanta is going to start to get sneaky. And we'll find out a lot more when we see the trucks and Xfinity cars on track. So I will have a lot more information when that happens. All right. You guys have a great night. Good luck tomorrow. It's great having everyone back. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. We will see everyone next week. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.
to life.
He still takes the field? Yes. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud.
Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job.
Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend.